Is race an issue in the U.S.?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
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 It is.
Of course.
The question was, how are they treated differently?
Yeah. So specifically Black people.
I can give an example of how I was treated differently. For example, going in a store and being followed, or always trying to get asked some questions like, do you need help? Did I ask for help?
I follow up with what she said. That has been a particular issue for me, at least I would say within this past year, especially being in Seattle with going to stores and being followed, and first going into the store and knowing that I've been immediately profiled has been very difficult.
You go and work at jobs, you can see the racial difference of who's in power versus who's not in power.
But
So
the thing for me, when I realized, kind of what Brea was saying, is that this is kind of how the world works. Because where my parents are from Deep East Texas. They're from Jasper. And so I remember in 1998 when James Byrd Jr. was killed and drugged by white supremacists. We knew what Sundown Town was, way before people have to explain it. People who are from Deep East Texas and their parents who are from these places, that's a place that you just keep on rolling. You don't get thirsty. You don't have to use the bathroom. You just keep going. And we learned that from an early age.
We were playing basketball. They're screaming nigger in the audience all through the whole game. Then when we get back to our bus, somebody spray painted the whole entire bus nigger. They broke the windows, came on the bus and was screaming and acting crazy. So we had to the teachers and the coaches had to push them off the bus.
Yeah. And
then you think about it, because I'm from a diverse community. I've always been around African, Mexican, all kinds of people. So it's it's normal to us. But when you go and play the communities that you only see white people, it was just they don't like they're afraid of us because of how we look. But all we do is we're just here to play sports. We're just here to have fun. And we're only 9 years old. It doesn't matter about that. So then I guess that's the day I was like, okay, I know I'm Black. I know it's always been a problem, but this is what I'm going to have to face.
And so, Shantel, were these parents who were getting on the bus doing this stuff?
Parents,
wow.
Grown, 50, 40 years old. And they're to them, it's they feel like it's normal to do what their parents are doing because they see their people that they look up to do it. So it was parents, grown people, some old people, grown women, grown men. It was crazy.
Going home from school and he was doing monkey noises and calling us niggers or whatever. And my sister also beat up this boy, this white boy on the bus.
But and so that's another racism issue. I was the only one suspended from school from that. They had security waiting for me when we pulled up to the school, in middle school.
Right. So he was the aggressor and the person calling someone a racial slur. However, she was suspended from school for protecting me and her from a racist.
Well, the question is always what did you do? To you, it comes first. Oh, what did you do that provoked them or set them off? It's never looking at all pictures. I think for me, one thing was sports. Is people oh, it's just gonna be a basketball star. Except for growing up for me, I was a competitive figure skater. Yes, I was, tall and lean, but basketball was not my sport. I was a figure skater. But I remember my mom always telling me, because people would always just be questioning, oh, are you gonna get enrolled in the team? Are you gonna do this? My mom's no, she's gonna do what she wants to do. Right. If she wants to play basketball, cool. If she doesn't, she doesn't. Why is it some assumption that because she's this Black woman, here she is gonna be playing these sports?
And ended up moving to Brentwood, California, which at the time I deemed to be white suburbia. I enrolled in a school there. I went from a school that was 98% Black to a school that was 2% Black. And that's about 1 in every 60, 70 kids, to put that into context. So I entered into this high school in my sophomore year. And of course, I wanted to be in the honors classes, the advanced placement classes. And I was told time and time again in that 3 years that I was there that, this is too difficult for you. You're not ready for this. You don't need to do this. You just take this class instead. And it even went as far as I had teachers that were questioning my intellectual aptitude. they were assuming, because I came from that school district, that my IQ wasn't where it needed to be. And I was asked and told to and made to take tests to, determine my intellectual aptitude, to even be in that school, let alone those classes. So I had teachers that said, you don't belong. Teachers that have actually blocked me from enrolling in those courses. They would go to administration and say, I know she's going to try to get into AP Calculus. No, she needs to be back in geometry, even though that was a course I took 2 years
ago. From taking a class, have you ever been the only Black person in your classes in college, or were you treated a certain way because you were at a predominantly white school and people, the white kids are saying certain stuff that they think are cool, but it's actually racist as fuck? Like, has anybody had any of these kind of situations happen to them?
In PLU, that there was only 6 Black people in the whole entire college, and that's in Tacoma and Parkland. So that's like a culture shock, and it was just you just had to source and figure out things that find the teachers that were willing to help you, because they're not all willing to help you. They'll let you fall by the wayside, versus you see the other teacher reach out to other students and make sure that they can get that help and make sure they get that good grade. So I don't know, when I went to Pacific Lutheran, that was just too much for me. Like, pick up your boots by the wayside. They love to see that.
The bootstraps. Pick up yourself by the bootstraps.
Bootstraps.
Pick up them bootstraps.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make it safe.
I was going to say, I really didn't experience it from educators. I think like the biggest thing that I got from an educator was I studied broadcast journalism, and our cohort was really small. But there were 2 other Black women there, so I never felt alone until it became my week to anchor our show. We had a pretty extensive broadcast studio, all the resources in the world. And the day before I was going to anchor, my professor looked at me and was like, oh, well, I don't know what we're going to do with your hair. But outside of the classroom, it was kind of the Wild West. We knew the differences in fraternities and sororities. We knew that those were not spaces for us. We had fraternities and sororities throwing all kinds of parties, wearing blackface in the year 2010, like wearing blackface, doing cross the border parties, like their racism knew no bounds.
Oh my gosh.
So it was everybody who was not Black. It got to the point to where that area, even throwing bleach blondes at Black students.
What?
Yeah. And so it just, it just knew no bounds.
We have a director that's an African-American woman, transracial adoptee. And I definitely feel like the leadership level looks at it like, oh, we're doing well, we're bringing in diversity, because we have this, we do have, I guess, 2 directors that are people of color. But I'm like, that's not enough. But yet, and you also have like Black employees that have complained about the way that we're treated within the work that we do. Recently, a question was asked about doing a training for foster parents. And like right away, the comment was like, oh, we'll just have a director do it. We'll just have her do it, because of course, like her as a Black woman and a transracial adoptee, of course, she knows all when having conversations around what it's like to be Black right now, and how our, caregivers who are transracially parenting can speak to their kids about what's going on. And then I felt mixed for myself, because this person has been open in stating in spaces of predominantly Black spaces that she doesn't feel that she fits in with the Black culture. But yeah, I just definitely feel like she's a tokenized person in our organization. And I'm like, no, but see me. Yes, I may be able to simulate well in a white space, but I'm Black.
Right. You know what else I find interesting is that they chose the woman who doesn't even really identify with her Black background to be the spokesperson to talk about diversity or whatever the case may be. Like, I'm sorry, but that's a joke already.
Chosen. That's why she was chosen.
Exactly. And I think
that's true. I'm really curious about how, when you mentioned tokenism in the workplace, how all of these newly created diversity and inclusion roles are going to play out. because you know, we see all these people, director of this, director of diversity and inclusion, it's a Black person, and it seems like for the first time we're having a seat at the table. There are no Black distinguished engineers, but we can have a Black D&I person, you know. And I'm looking ahead to see, you know, what's going to happen in 10 years when all these quotas are met. Are they going to determine, oh, we just don't need this anymore? Like, what's going to happen then?
The fix is not saying that, oh, we hired, you know, 1,010 Black people in 2020. The fix is, why have you not done this in the first place?
Thank
and
you.
getting to the point, why is a White person in this role?
Yeah.
You know, when they can't speak for my experience, for us as a people, as a community. But you got to understand that we're already in the minority anyway. So that D&I person is really not speaking to you. They're speaking on behalf of you, but they're speaking to those who are the change makers, and they don't look like us.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, you guys, now we're going to fast forward a little bit. We were talking about childhood, school age. Now let's fast forward to adulthood. Now, like, how does racism show up in your daily lives outside of work? And then we're going to go into work afterwards. So outside of work, going to the grocery store, pumping your gas.
Being on the job, you know, one is, you know, I purchased a, you know, half zip, you know, hoodie thing, and I wore it to work with some jeans and some, you know, some trainers or some tennis shoes, as we say in the US. And, you know, I had a colleague of mine saying, oh, Brea, look at you. You're looking really gangster today.
I like it. Not going to be glad that you finally decided to educate yourself today, because
like,
you should have already done that.
And have they actually educated themselves, or did they just watch the movie and now they feel like they're educated? Because the whole I see you thing and I see you and I hear you. Do you see me? How'd you just now all of a sudden start seeing me? And if you saw me, why did this even happen in the first place? It's mainly in our apartment complex where people will see us walking and they'll stop and they'll watch to see if we like actually live in the building, to go in a building and stuff like that. So do you guys code switch at work?
No.
Oh, why don't you? So you said no. Why don't you code switch at work?
I don't need to. If you don't like how I am, then I don't know what you need to do, but I'm not about to be anybody but me. However, when I was in the military, I did have to do that. The military is super racist.
Oh, sorry.
For example, me being in just like the basic training part, like they have this book you have to read of all the codes and conducts and all this stuff. I had twisted my hair while I was in basic training, and basically I got in trouble because that was out of regulation to have braids in your hair. So when I first got to basic training, I had micro braids in my hair, and the micro braids had 2 different colors in it, like a couple strands of like a brown blonde color. So I had to take my hair down while I was in basic training because that was out of regulations. However, there was white girls in there that had blonde streaks in their hair, Asian girls in there that had blonde streaks in their hair. They didn't have to dye their hair while they were there, so why did I have to take my braids down? And then also the trainer, they show these videos of things that happen and how you should have reacted. So there was like this black bus driver female, open the door and it's this white lady out there that be calling her a nigger. And the girl told her, nah, don't get on my bus. Last time you called me a nigger, and closed the door and drove off. And then the teacher goes, well, so do you think she should have reacted like that? I'm looking around like, yeah. But, and he's Mexican, by the way, who's saying this story.
You played it smooth. You got the best reaction out of her, because it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Right. Exactly. So he's like, yeah, that for someone calling you a name, it's not that serious. Bruh.
That's how it is.
But you're in the training department saying that. And then another trainer who's from Fiji, he talking about somebody got on talking about what up in, but he's a in. I don't know if he was trying to be racist or what, but his skin is browner than mine. So I don't know, but I'm looking like, do you not hear what you just said? Yeah, you know, some people get on and yeah, they say what's up in, but he's an N. No, do you mean he's black?
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
It's just a
those are
mess.
some of the experiences
This
I
area is the worst. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like,
After this entire conversation, what do you guys have to say to the people who make statements like, are you sure that was a race thing? Or everything isn't about race. This is not about race. Like, why do you guys keep bringing up race? What do you have to say to those people?
Repent. That's all I gotta say. Repent.
You're so
That's
lucky
not
that
it.
it's not about race for you. That's what I would say.
I say yes, my opinion stands.
I would say people need to be doing a lot more listening.
I think they
Elentée?
need to be in a
Shantel,
mind
go
of
ahead.
understanding. I was like, I just think they need to put themselves in a mind of understanding, because you have to figure, you don't know unless you understand and actually go out and put yourself out there to be uncomfortable, to learn the things that we are complaining about. Nobody's complaining about things if it's not happening. So just understanding.
Elentée?
I would say that they don't have the right to make that comment. Period. Like, you can't tell me what's race for me. For me, this is my experience. So you can't tell me, no, it's not a race thing. How do you know? That's how I felt. You can't tell me I don't feel that way. So you need to pay attention and listen, and don't make comments like that because you sound crazy.
And I would just say that I don't even believe the people who say, are you sure this is about race? Because it's usually a white person who's saying it. And bitch, you're the
Yes.
one who created this system of racism. So yes, bitch, you know it's about race. You know that you or your family or somebody that you know has done something like this, and it has been about race. And so Black people wouldn't have to even think it was a race issue if you never created the system in the first place. That's what I would have to say. You know it's about race. Watching. This is just my opinion, but I don't believe racism is a Black issue. It is a white issue. They created it. If you're so superior, why did you have to continue to make systems upon system on top of system in order to make yourself feel superior? If you were superior, you would just be that without having to oppress other people. So you need to do some inner work. Black people, practice group economics, please.
Yes.
The only way that they will understand. Thank you guys for sitting in on this session. I didn't think it was going to be almost 2.5 hours, but it was good. Try now. It shows you as unmuted now. See if we can hear you.
Speak, Jasmine.
Can she? I was gonna say, can she hear you? Because she ain't talking.
I don't think she hears us.
You say you gonna cut
I don't think so
out?
either.
Put it in
Yeah,
the
I
chat.
can cut it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and fill my glass real quick while she tries to put it together.
Okay.
Y'all tripping. It's 8:42 over here on a Saturday. Y'all tripping.
Whatever, it's
Y'all
quarantine.
act like-
Where are you going?
Y'all act like, don't let this Versace blouse fool y'all now. I'm about to pour it up.
Yeah, that's for the intro.
So I'm gonna not hold anything back, because I was like, hey, if you want to be about all the support, I'm about to call you out. So
Yeah, anyway, so I'm trying to help y'all out. I'm trying to help y'all realize yourselves.
right.
If one more white person sends me a screenshot, a text message, an email, a voice memo, or picks up the phone and calls me and says, you know what, Brea, I just watched The Help.
What? Oh my God.
If I hear one more.
It's just like, he's like the person that has like, I have a Black friend. He's like one of those, I have a Black friend, so I feel like I know and I understand you guys, but he always says like crazy stuff and everybody be
Well,
looking
if
like,
you knew, you wouldn't be saying what you're saying.
Exactly.
And I'm sure he says more crazy stuff and be like, oh, this is not racist. Like, if you have to say this is not racist, then this
is
you
racist.
have this conversation.
And that, he just has
So
to.
he thought he was jumping to action and doing the right thing by saying, hey, it's not segregated here, but I just want to let you know, like, it feels a little weird that the Blacks are in the front and the whites are in the back. Just like, okay.